Nazi Germany named a more detailed plan to destroy not only the Allies but also their economies, Operation Bernhardt. The operation involved the creation of a large amount of counterfeit British and American currency to covertly introduce the British economy. This idea was intended not only to destroy the British economy, but also to destroy the confidence of the people in their own government. In 1942, SS Major Bernhard Kruger was commissioned to execute the plan, recruiting 142 counterfeiters and artisans from the concentration camps. Together they created some of the most fascinating counterfeit currencies ever seen, and by 1945 they had created 182 million British pounds and finished placing plates ready to counterfeit US dollars. In May 1945 the operation was ordered to retreat to an Austrian village, where equipment was thrown into a lake, and prisoners revolted. The term privatization was falsely attributed to Peter Drucker, and in reality the term was used by the Nazis. Peter Drucker referred to giving back in 1969 because he proposed handing over executive responsibilities in the public sector to something formerly privately controlled. However, after researching the structure of the Nazi economy, Maxine Nippel-Swiss's masterpiece showed that industrialists supported Hitler because of his economic policies. These policies consisted of what Drucker later called recovery, and the restoration of state-controlled monopoly by the Nazi German government to the private sector. The term was first coined by the Swiss in 1941. United Steel Trust is a great example of giving back, she said. This may be the first time in English that the term retrieval has been used in sociological literature. Okay, this guy needs a tip. Germany was not the first nation to create night vision, however, and it was the first to adopt a portable version of the night vision that could be carried by a single soldier. Its code name is Vampire. Its real name is not a roll of the tongue, Al-12G. This device is essentially a very large backpack battery that activates an infrared red searchlight and an infrared red scope mounted on the selected gun. The searchlight emits high infrared red and the scope later increased this light. This device does not receive body heat and is essentially an invisible light that can be detected by another vampire user. Deployed in 1945, these devices were rare and were reserved for a unit called night hunting. Although it was too late to make a difference in the war, for a while there was confusion around the Germans' ability to identify people at night. While Germany was still known as the Weimar Republic, its pharmaceutical industry was booming and a major exporter of opium and cocaine. At a pharmaceutical company in Berlin, Dr. Fritz Hochschild was inspired by the successful use of amphetamines by Americans at the 1936 Olympic Games. Hochschild developed his own amazing drug and obtained the patent for the first German methylamphetamine, Pervitin. This drug quickly became a sensation and was available in many forms, including chocolate bars. Women were recommended to eat 2 or 3 meals a day to speed up homework and control their appetite. In 1940, when Germany was planning to invade France through the Ardennes, a stimulus order was sent to military doctors. The order recommended that German soldiers take up to 5 tablets a day to reduce the risk of combat and sleep deprivation. Wehrmacht ordered 35 million tablets for Army and Luftwaffe. The tablet allowed the whole body to stay awake for 3 days and 3 nights, and Blitzkrieg was not only successful but also physically the main cause. An army without fuel is at a standstill and has no counterpart. With this in mind, the German army discovered the Armed Forces Unit canister. Its purpose was to fuel tanks and prepare for war at any time in pre-war Europe. However, Jericho did not receive its nickname until Paul Bliss, an American engineer, obtained some of these German inventions at the Berlin Tempelhof airport. Initially the Allies were not interested in this invention, as they had their own poorly designed canisters that could be easily drilled and needed screws to open them. Even so, there is no denying that the Germans created this masterpiece. The German canister could hold about 5.3 gallons of fuel and handled features. In the end, their effectiveness and productivity were undisputed, and the United States made a quick decision to produce their own version, naming it Jericho after the friendly nickname for German troops. More than 19 million Jerichos were needed to assist U.S. forces in the World War II, and President Roosevelt stated that without these cans our troops would not be able to cut through France. The recipe for this herbal liquor has not changed since 1934, and the company has been frustrated, and the drink has not been associated with the Nazi Party. Kurt Mast, the founding brother of this herbal liquor, is rumored to have named Jägermeister as the second in command of the Nazi Party, Hermann Göring. In 1934, Göring gave himself the title of Imperial Huntsmaster or German Jägermeister. Rumor has it that Göring came to visit Kurt in person for a hunting party at his property. In 1933, Kurt Mars joined the National Socialist German Workers' Party and even bought his house in Wolfental on government-owned land from a Jewish family. The company and family members have sought to deny the company's past ties with the Nazis. There is no definite conclusion. Although General Z did not know what I was referring to, this revolutionary discovery really owes much to Nazi Germany for its existence. In 1928, the German scientist Fritz Plummer invented a method of coating paper with metal strips, and by 1935 the first magnetic tape recorder was invented. This technology allows for improved audio as well as longer recording. When the Allied forces intercepted radio transmissions from Europe at World War II, they were often deceived into thinking that different people in different places would be rereading messages across different time zones at once. This assumption is based on the Allied forces' knowledge of their contemporary recording equipment, which does not allow for the audio quality and length of the recordings they obtain. It was only after the release of an audio tape recorder from Radio Luxembourg that they misunderstood. The technology was sent back to the United States, and 2 decades later the release of the cassette was no doubt based on this embraced technology. Thousands of tons of deadly neurotransmitters, including sarin, have been discovered and processed during the construction of German chemicalists up to World War II. Deadly agents did not know the Allies, and if used could change the outcome of the conflict. Neurotransmitters directly disrupt vital organs of the body, and as a result the smallest exposure can be fatal. In 1936 and 1938, German scientists had discovered 2 dangerous neurotransmitters, tauberin and sarin, respectively. To this day, the substance is ranked among the most toxic chemical warfare agents. By the end of the war, the Nazis were believed to have stored more than 30,000 tons of tubers and a small amount of sarin. But it was never used for fighting. Although some historians have suggested that Hitler's personal experience of the World War I chemical warfare led to his decision not to engage in such activities, there are several theories as to why this is so. However, this is hard to believe when you consider what one would like to do in a death camp. In the end, we do not know why. There is evidence that Gestapo officials decided to starve the residents of the Warsaw Ghetto. According to their calculations, a low-calorie diet would take 9 months for everyone in the ghetto to die. Hunger created a black market of murder, violence and death. The combination of famine and disease caused thousands of deaths. In 1942, Dr. Israel Mileskovsky decided to study the physiology and pathology of starving Ghetto prisoners. Dr. Israel wanted to understand how hunger could be cured, and Dr. Julian Fliederbaum's goal was to conduct a study of scientifically valid hunger and set up a research platform as a counter, Research Point. The study is divided into several sections, with topics on blood circulation, childhood hunger, and more. More than 100 people participated in the research project and it was conducted on a large scale. Women were used to transport medical equipment into the ghetto, and the best medical minds in Europe worked together to study what happens to the energy use of a person who loses weight. The Jews were forbidden to do research because they were starving and life-threatening by the Jewish doctors themselves. These doctors did their research, not with the knowledge they could save, but with the hope of advancing medical research. The doctor's most important conclusion was that the process of rehabilitating hunger must be gradual, and that if this knowledge had been made public at the time, thousands of free lives could have been saved by the end of the war. It is unfortunate that these discoveries were the only method by which cruelty could be reached, a study that could never be morally reversed. How did this delicious refreshing drink at Third Reich start? Following the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the United States officially entered the World War II, declaring Nazi Germany an enemy. 1917 trade with the enemy was re-established and Coca-Cola syrup flowed to German factories. Even so, Max Keith, then a German Coca-Cola affiliate manager, was determined to continue trading. He decided to oversee the creation of a German soft drink, it's usually the American dream, the removal of the patriotic brand. Chemical esters made a new drink left over from other food industries, such as fruit pulp and byproducts such as cheese. Its taste was similar to that of ginger beer today, and Fanta quickly became a household dish, becoming one of the only soft drinks now available in Germany. As the Germans conquered more European territories, Max Keith continued to expand Fanta across the continent and save other Coca-Cola subsidiaries from collapsing. After the Allies finally defeated Nazi Germany, Fanta production ceased and Keith Fanta's profits were handed over to Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta.